You'll never guess who painted this landscape. Or this frog. Or this purple thing. Fame comes and goes, but a canvas can last.
A painter. Painters have a different way of looking at things.
I want to show you the art of people you thought you already knew. Maybe these paintings will change how you see them. Or maybe they won't. You decide. After leading a nation through crisis, war, and deep division, this figure traded politics for paint. He painted portraits of world leaders, veterans, and even himself. George W. Bush's art is marked by straightforward portraiture with clear likenesses, warm tones, and a surprisingly earnest, almost folk art quality. Critics and audiences have responded to his art in very different ways. Portraits of Courage depict 98 US veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, blending expressive portraits with a politicized framing that highlights Bush's personal ties to the subjects while sidestepping deeper reflection on the wars, a project some view as a heartfelt tribute and others as reputation polishing.
You know, it just dawned on me that why not honor these vets? And not only were we able to honor them, but it'll draw attention to what we're doing at the Bush Center, which is how to get them the best help we can get them.
For this historic statesman, painting was more than a pastime. It was a refuge. He began in 1915 after the Gallipoli disaster, a failed Allied campaign in World War I, which ended in heavy casualties and cost him his place in the British cabinet. Over his life, Winston Churchill created more than 500 landscapes and seascapes, many at his home in Kent or in the Mediterranean. He called it a sanctuary from his black dog of depression. Churchill's paintings are vivid impressionist landscapes, painted with loose, confident brushwork and a keen sense of light. He favored bright, optimistic colors and broad strokes, capturing the warmth of Mediterranean coasts, the charm of English gardens, and the serenity of rural scenes, focusing on atmosphere and mood rather than precise detail. Churchill once said, "When I get to heaven, I mean to spend a considerable portion of my first 1,000,000 years in painting, and so get to the bottom of the subject." Beneath the bright lights of the 1950s, she was a global icon. But away from the cameras, she sketched and painted. Her works were intimate and whimsical. Abstract lines, portraits, perhaps another way of telling her story without words. Marilyn Monroe's interest in art began in 1951, when she took an adult education course on Russian literature and art at UCLA. By the late 1950s, her letters mention a correspondence art course, and plans for her New York townhouse even included an art studio, suggesting her passion endured. Marilyn Monroe painted during the 1950s and early 1960s, a time of post-war prosperity, Hollywood glamour, and Cold War tension. Abstract expressionism dominated the art world, redefining what painting could be, while popular culture idolized glamour, celebrity, and the American dream, all of which Monroe both embodied and quietly questioned. Before he was an action superstar, he was an art student. Through the years, he returned to the canvas, creating large, vivid works, explosions of color and emotion. Sylvester Stallone has said that he loves art more than anything in the world, except for his family. Stallone's paintings are large, expressionist works with bold colors, thick textures, and emotional, symbolic imagery over strict realism.
And this one here, this is, I think, I call it before thought. Before we have an idea, you have inspiration. Inspiration, you can't put your finger on it. It's probably just all this stuff banging around in your head. I call it roof brain chatter. You know, it's just out there, all these different images. And then eventually it settles down into an image that we can relate to, like a person, a thing, a horse, a flower. This is kind of like, oh, this is not the flower. This is what the flower is thinking. There it is.
He was never just a musician. He was a full-spectrum artist. David Bowie's paintings often reflected his chameleon-like persona. They blend expressionism and surrealism, with distorted faces, bold colors, and layered textures. Influenced by Bacon and Auerbach, his work explores identity, isolation, and emotion with the same experimental energy as his music. In both music and painting, Bowie refused to be only one thing.
I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. I think they generally produce their worst work when they do that. And the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
In a family long associated with art, one member took it to heart. A devoted watercolorist, he paints serene landscapes, mountains, rivers, villages. King Charles's works have been exhibited and sold for charity, raising millions for heritage and youth arts programs, and his limited edition lithographs have made him one of the most commercially successful living artists in the UK. King Charles's art consists mainly of traditional watercolor landscapes, depicting serene scenes and historic architecture with muted colors, precise brushwork, and a calm, contemplative mood. One of history's most infamous figures began life with artistic ambition. As a young man, he applied to the Academy of Fine Arts and was rejected twice. Adolf Hitler painted architecture, cityscapes, and postcards to make ends meet. His lack of success as an artist shaped the path he would take. Most critics describe Hitler's art as technically competent but lifeless, derivative, and weak in depicting people, though a few saw early potential. Producing an estimated 2,000 to 3,000 works in his youth, he is often viewed as a small-time professional painter of trivial urban scenes. His paintings occasionally surface at auction, fetching tens of thousands of dollars. The voice of the 20th century also had a painter's eye. His artwork leaned toward bold, abstract compositions, often using vivid colors, sweeping brushstrokes, and geometric forms. Frank Sinatra's paintings balanced spontaneity with a strong sense of design, reflecting both his showman's flair and a personal, introspective side rarely seen in his public persona. Frank Sinatra's choice to paint clowns is often interpreted as deeply personal. Clowns, with their painted smiles and hidden sorrow, can symbolize the contrast between a performer's public persona and private emotions. Something Sinatra, a man constantly in the spotlight, likely understood well. Before he became one of the most famous musicians in history, he was already drawing. His art was playful and sharp, a mix of whimsical doodles and biting satire. Working mostly in pen and ink, John Lennon filled pages with surreal characters, quick caricatures, and absurd little scenes. In the 1960s, his drawings were collected in books, blending his offbeat humor with a distinctive, almost childlike style. His sketches were exhibited internationally, and in 1970, he created the famous Bag One series, erotic line drawings given to Yoko Ono as a wedding gift, which were later seized by police in London on obscenity charges. Much like his music, his art was instantly recognizable, unapologetically his own. Whose work would you hang on your wall? Let me know in the comments.